Welcome to the Boardroom Sessions podcast. In these sessions, we meet the most amazing and interesting people. We learn about their passions, their business models, cool new technologies, and of course, their lessons on personal growth. I hope you enjoy. In this Boardroom Session podcast, we meet Matt Vaught, a tattoo all-star. Matt is a self-made tattoo artist, a superstar on social media. We talk about his origin story of how he got going in the tattoo business, how he grew to 1 million plus subscribers on TikTok, tens of thousands of subscribers on Instagram and other social platforms, how he's turned lemons into lemonade in the social world, how he grew the business, how he manifested the business from a thought and an idea and a goal and turned it into more than a living, but a full-on lifestyle. Hope you like this as much as I do. I found this inspirational and quite powerful. Even if I'm a guy who doesn't even have a tattoo, I still found unbelievable value in Matt's story, and I hope that it inspires you like it inspires me. Matt Vaught, welcome to the Boardroom Sessions podcast.
Mike Miller, thanks for having me.
Matt, you couldn't be any different from most of the other folks I've met on the Boardroom Sessions podcast here, but I'm super excited. I'm like giddy to have this conversation.
That's what I was thinking, man. You're going to get a little street cred this time.
I think so. I just might. So for those of you that are listening here, Matt Vaught is a tattoo all-star. He's a social media maven and an artist above all things. But most importantly, Matt couldn't be any different than myself. Matt's a lot younger than I am, significantly younger, significantly taller, had tattooed, pierced, big hoop earrings, all that kind of fun stuff that is everything I'm not. I don't have a single piece of body art on me yet. However, I'm in awe of what Matt has built and what he's done with himself here and how he's built a business. And I think that anybody and everybody can learn and be inspired by what Matt's done here. And I can't wait to tell your story on the podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Mike. Thanks for the intro.
So Matt, why don't you give us a little bit of your origin story, if you will, of how you got into tattooing, and then shortly after how you and I met.
Okay. So how I got into tattooing, it is a long and drawn out story, obviously. But the bullet points would be that I grew up in the music industry. My uncle was a touring musician, local to Orange County. They got pretty big back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And, so I wanted to be my uncle. I really wanted to be a drummer. I wanted to tour the world playing the drums. And that was my whole goal as a kid. And, I first saw Travis Barker playing the drums with his shirt off, and he was just covered in tattoos.
And Travis Barker's with what band, for those who don't know?
He was with Blink-182.
He's had a
few bands, obviously. But
right?
Yeah, Blink-182 being the main one. And he's
American Idol,
dude,
too, right?
Yeah, and he's very heavily tattooed. And I don't know, I knew from a young age that that's what I wanted to look like. I wanted tattoos. I wanted to be covered. Fast forward to, past all the illegal tattoos that I got before I was 18. And when I started getting tattooed in a shop,
So is that still a law? Do you have to be 18 or over to get a tattoo legally?
You do, yeah. And in California, it's actually illegal to tattoo anywhere but a tattoo parlor. So out of the house, it's illegal. So I started getting tattooed in the shop, and I saw these dudes that were doing tattoos, and I just thought that it was like, wow, that's like the second coolest job in the world, obviously playing drums being the first. And I always had this inner monologue that I couldn't draw, right? Like I would sketch and do all that stuff.
Self-limiting beliefs?
Big time. And just like every kid, I would like doodle on my paper in class and stuff, and I would draw, and I would, deep down, I remember feeling like, well, that's not that bad. Like I can see what that is, right? But nobody ever told me like, hey, you can draw. Like you should keep doing that. So I just had this inner monologue like, oh, well, I can't draw. I can't. Music's my thing. So fast forward, I broke a few laws and I went to prison. And in prison and in jail, like people they draw, they make cards for their family and stuff. And there's like, the usual stuff that you draw. And I would do that. And it was about the same as everybody else's. And still nobody was like, hey, you can draw, you should draw. Right. It was just like, it's just something to do to kill the time and send something to my family. So,
so you were making art in jail.
I was, but I didn't even realize it. Like I would have never called it art back then.
It was just doodles, drawings.
Yeah, just little cards and little standard stuff that everybody else is drawing. So no different than anybody else. And it wasn't until I got with my first mentor, and I was living in a cell with them, and obviously he was a tattoo artist that I really respected. I loved his artwork. I thought it was great. And I moved in because I wanted him to tattoo me, among other things, among, just us being friends. But yeah, I really wanted tattoos at that time and I wanted him to do them. And it wasn't until I was trying to show him what I wanted, right? I had these ideas that I wanted on my skin and I was trying to explain it to him. And I sketched something out and showed him. And he's like, literally, well, why the fuck am I drawing everything if you can draw? And I was like, oh, I can't draw, right? He's like, you can draw. And I was like, I can draw? He's like, you can draw. Like, well, I'll show you. And he started showing me like how to shade and how to do all this stuff, right? And like literally all it took was one person that I looked up to be like, you can draw.
So that's words of encouragement, right? Mm-hmm. How powerful words of encouragement to somebody else. And maybe if there is some room for improvement, then you can, and you're good at it. Here, let me show you some more so somebody can help give you a little more advice versus you don't know what you're doing. This is how to do it.
Yeah.
Very different, right?
Yeah, very much so. And that's really all it took. And it was, dude, literally like flipping a light switch. Like all of a sudden, this whole different universe was opened up to me. And like all it took was him being like, you can draw. Here, let me show you, And so from that point on, because I had kind of given up on the music thing, being a convicted felon makes it real hard to be a touring musician. There's a lot of countries that won't let you in. So I'd kind of realized how long of a shot that was. And so this flipped on a light switch. It gave me a whole different, goal in life. Like if I can draw, I'm going to be a tattoo artist. Right. And so he gave me that, just with that little bit of encouragement. And from then on, it was just like, I was obsessed. I studied tattoo magazines every day. I drew every single waking moment that I was in the cell. Like I wasn't watching TV, I was drawing, and I was like obsessed.
That's fantastic. You get a passion, you get really good at it. You got encouraged. You and I met shortly after that experience in jail or prison, I guess is the better term for it. You were making some changes in your life, and we had an opportunity to work together and work on some stuff. You were making some changes in your life, and I just happened to be lucky enough to be there with you during that. And you started to take off. You started to take things in your life. You never wanted to go back to that scenario. You vowed. I think you were very angry when we first started meeting about some of the decisions and things that you had made in your life, and some self-forgiveness, I think, was part of our journey that we talked about.
Totally.
And more importantly, there was a time where you and I spoke here about what you were going to do next. You were at a crossroads, if you will. You were at a point in time where you had some decisions to make. You and I had a conversation about whether some folks, I think in your family, were pushing you to go and think about going to the pipe fitters union. You had some jobs in which you were doing some construction work and things of that nature. And so it looked like a path forward for you. Mm-hmm. And you came to me, we had a conversation, and the conversation was, what suggestion would you have for me? Folks are giving me the guidance to go look at being a pipe fitter or join the pipe fitters union, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then you said, but that's not where my love is. My love is in tattoo, and I want to be a tattoo artist. Remember that conversation?
I do. And it was actually about 6 years later when we met, actually, from that point. So I had gotten out of prison, was on parole, and went through the whole journey of like trying to get into the tattoo industry officially. And so I had done all that. I had been an actual tattoo artist for a few years before we met. And then obviously with the problems that I had in the past, I was real self-destructive. So burned my life to the ground, went to jail again. And then that's when we met, actually, when I was serious about turning my life around. Yeah. That conversation came when, I was essentially trying to get back into the tattoo industry after basically blackballing myself. I was not a good human being back in the day, right? So I felt a lot of resistance getting back into the industry. And was actually, considering going into the pipe fitters union just because of the stability, financially, and, the benefits and stuff. I just thought that it was the adult thing to do, if you will. And I came to you fully expecting you to back that because you're a professional man, right? And I kind of figured that you would, you would back me going into the union because it's a solid choice, right? And I remember that conversation, and you fully surprised me. You were like, "Yeah, man, like consider this. Like if money wasn't an option, like what would you rather do with your life?" Right? Would you rather be fitting pipe or would you rather be tattooing? And it's like, well, that was a fucking obvious answer for me, because I love tattooing. Like I love creating stuff like that. Like it's really, I don't know. There's not much more fulfilling than that, right? Obviously, I feel
It's obviously your calling.
it is. It totally is. And like helping people being the other one that like is just as fulfilling or maybe a little more, right? Which is why I kind of stuttered on that one. But yeah, tattooing is my entire like passion. Like I love doing that.
So what were your first steps there? I mean, we talked a little bit about setting some goals for everyone's life and what you wanted to accomplish in the long term and getting in touch with these things that you feel you're good for. But that what has impressed me bar none is you had an innate ability to get after it, right? And so I know nothing. I could offer zero guidance on any of this kind of stuff. You took this all by yourself and went ham, if you will, all over this stuff. So tell me how you made your first steps here in going for that vision.
Okay. Well, that, I would say by the time we had that conversation, I was about probably, I was close to 2 years into working with you on like the vision workshop, right? And putting that to work. And like, when I say I burnt my life to the ground, I started at probably -1, right? So, using that vision workshop for a couple years and seeing it work.
Which, for those who don't know, the Vision Workshop is nothing more than setting some goals for one's life and getting very purposeful about it and setting some routines in your life in the day, in the morning, typically, and dedicating time and effort towards those goals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's super simple when you break it down like that. And it's crazy because it felt a little woo, obviously, like a little woo woo. But it works, and I started seeing it work, and I was convinced, and so like I was a couple years into it when we had that conversation. So like I really, I kind of once you said that, it just was like another light switch moment, right? And it was like, man, I rededicated. Actually had like a whole God shot, if you will, of like somebody, my first mentor that apprenticed me to get into the industry reached out to me. When I was down the street from his shop and talking about him. And he was basically like, "Hey buddy, how you doing? Like, I need an artist over here." And I was like, "That's great. I need a tattoo shop." So the man that gave me my first apprenticeship to be a professional tattoo artist essentially opened the door back up for me to get back in.
Right at the right time, right at the time in which you were declaring to yourself and to the world that you were looking for this new path, right? Follow my dreams to be a tattoo artist. A tattoo artist just reaches out to say he needs somebody in his shop. Coincidence? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a little woo. I don't know. I mean, I see things in timing, right? I see God in timing, if you will. Like that's where I see God. So when stuff like this happens, like at the exact moment like that, it's just like I got goosebumps right now talking about it, right? Like I have no control over that, but like the fact that I declared it to the universe, and then shortly after that, the door opened up, right?
So you walked in that door.
Yeah.
You walked in that door straight, and what did that look like, and how did it how did it manifest into where we're at today?
Man, when that door cracked open, I kicked it the rest of the way open. I could tell you that, and I brought all my baggage in with me, and I was ready to go, and just like before, when that universe opened up to me, when I was told that I could draw, it was like, man, I'm going after this, right? And I get obsessed with things that I do, which can be, there's pros and cons to that, obviously. Like you make a lot of sacrifices to continue that obsession, right? So like tattooing, it becomes my entire life. And that's what it was. And like I had built up a couple times before, and so I knew how to build a clientele just by like being solid and tattooing and being there on time and not being flaky, right? Like I'll build that clientele. So I came in ready to do that, ready to progress my artwork, trying to obsessing on getting better. And I was doing that. And then shortly after,
are you asking for referrals from people, and people, at that point, is it all word of mouth? How does the advertising go for a tattoo guy?
Yeah, essentially. So, I mean, tattooing, obviously there's social media, which is free marketing, free advertising. And there's also word of mouth, and word of mouth back then, because I had no following on social media, was way more powerful. Right. And I'm not even asking for it at that point. Basically, I'm doing the tattoos, and I'm just being me. And then people are referring their friends and bringing more and more. So you're growing a clientele, and like each of those people is usually getting more than one tattoo. So it just kind of builds off of itself like that. They refer their friends. And then the other route obviously is social media, which has become a powerful tool in my career. It's put me in front of a lot of people and given me a lot more.
Did you hear that word, career?
Yeah.
Matt is by all means running a career here.
Yeah.
And so for those of you that think that this might be a hobby for some, there's an entire industry around the tattoo business and piercing business. And so I just want to make sure that's clear, because that was not known to me until knowing you and seeing how this all goes down, right? I'm much more aware of what's happening in this industry today than I've ever been.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, having no tattoos, why would you know, right? And obviously the old school outlook on tattooing was, I mean, those guys are bikers or criminals or losers, right? And that's just the truth of it. And today it is really like a career, it's the best career you can get into as an artist, unless you're like working for Disney.
Sure. And because you have regular work, you have regular art, and you get to charge what you want to charge, what you think there's a value for it.
Yeah.
So you got going, you were working for this gentleman that reached out to you. How did that grow? Did you change shops? Did you upgrade different places? How did that work?
Yeah, well, I mean, dude, to get to that, there's a story behind that too, because when we had our conversation, when you fully switched my route,
I just made a suggestion.
No,
I said follow your dreams is what I said, essentially.
You did, but it wasn't what I expected, and it like fully changed things for me. And like I might be putting too much pressure on that. But it, like, you really fucking helped me in that one point, right, in my life. But during that time, I was waiting to hear back from another shop owner who I had approached about getting a job. He basically said, yeah, you're not quite good enough. You're doing HVAC right now. Just keep doing HVAC. Eventually I'll be able to get you in, and you can tattoo in front of me, and I can kind of like tune your game up and then put you back in. Right. And I was like, cool, that sounds great. He was a busy man. I would wait for a couple weeks, and I'd message him and be like, hey, haven't heard back from you. Or that happened a couple times. And he's like, I'm not trying to blow you off. Right. I'm just super busy. I'm sorry. But in those like 2-week spans, while we're not talking, obviously I'm like starting to drift more towards the union again. Right. Because it's like, fuck, dude, like I can't just sit around and wait forever. I'm in purgatory. And it got to a point where like it was a couple weeks at a time, and we'd talk, and then I stopped messaging him because I didn't want to be bothersome to him. I didn't want to just bug him all the time, He knew how bad I wanted it, I thought, and I'll just leave it there. And then I was talking to other shop owners as well. It was all kind of the same thing. Yeah, we need to make room for you. I wasn't getting no's, but it wasn't exactly like a yes, let's start you right now.
Little resistance.
A little resistance.
Yeah. And it also sounds like you used that as kind of catalyst, like almost like a challenge.
Totally. Yeah. And it definitely was a challenge, and I wasn't giving up, but I was in a different place in my life where I was like trying to be more of a stable adult instead of that wild ass pirate kid that I was before, and so I'm trying to make the right decisions, and that's why I was considering the union. But it got to a point where more of these God shots would happen, right? These like weird timing events where I'm like about to call the union to sign up, and Kareem, the shop owner where I'm at now, he's the one we were talking about. He would message me and be like, "Hey, dude, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to blow you off, dude. I'm just trying to get this and situate this and make it work." And I'm like, "Cool." It was like right at the time, like I'm sitting in my car about to call the union hall to sign up for the union, and he would hit me up, and I'm like, "Dude," like goosebumps again, right? Like, this is weird timing.
God shot.
And it would happen like that probably 3 or 4 times before me and you had our conversation, right? And that's why I called you, and I was like, "Mike, I don't know what to do, man. Like, I want to go back into tattooing, but I'm having all this resistance. I'm also considering, going and being like a real adult and getting a big boy job with big boy benefits, and then you gave me that answer, and it was like, cool, like co-sign me to tattoo for the rest of my life. I'm going to do it. But anyways, I bring that story up because as I'm tattooing at Dr. Tattoo, I'm progressing my game, right? Within 1 month of being back in the shop, Kareem messages me and goes, "Hey, dude, I've seen the work you're putting up. It's really good. Like, you got better." And I was like, "Thanks, man. Like, that means a lot coming from you, right?" And like this is the dude that told me I wasn't good enough to work in his shop.
Wow.
Within a month, and he's like, "Yeah, so you want to come talk about a job?" And at this point in my life, I'm probably loyal to a fault at times, right? But like, this man stuck his neck out and got me into his shop, and I just wasn't ready to bail on him yet, And I told Kareem that, and he's like, "Fuck, you're loyal too? God damn it." Like, Kareem really, he felt like he messed up, and we've talked about it since then. Obviously, you fast forward a little bit, and COVID hit, and the shop I was at was closed, and it wasn't opening back up. And I saw that Kareem was very much still going. He needed to pay his bills, and we started up shortly after COVID happened.
So it works out with the right timing, right? As they say, things happen in the right, with the right time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So fast forward to you're in this new realm, and things start to really take off for you. Yeah. And so social media, I think, was one of the big things that you latched onto very early and started to take off. Your word of mouth was all over the place. You had lines of people that were you were having scheduling challenges and things like that for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But tell me about how you built your social media business.
Yeah. Well, so I approach social media much the same as you see like 99% of the other tattoo artists out there, right? Like, I was just posting pictures of my artwork. It was none of me or my personality, because as an artist, it's much easier to hide behind your artwork than it is to like show people who you really are, right? And that was not really doing much. It wasn't going anywhere. My artwork wasn't at that point where it's like, it's going to catch you and be like, "Wow, this dude's amazing." It just wasn't that. It's
not different. There was nothing unique about posting a picture of some tattoo art on right. social and saying, "Hey, come get in line." Yeah,
exactly. I was the same as 99% of the other artists out there. And it got to a point where, TikTok was happening because of COVID and all that. Everybody was stuck in their house, and this whole TikTok trend thing was happening, and I stayed away from it. Like, I stayed away from it for a solid year after lockdown. Like, I wasn't on TikTok. And there was another artist there that was like, hey man, like you should probably start a TikTok. Like I've gotten a couple clients off of there. And I was like, oh, well, okay. If you're getting clients, then yeah, let's do it. Right. And I started a TikTok, and it was the usual, like if you see any other tattoo artists on TikTok, it's like, here's the stencil, transition, here's the tattoo. Still none of me. Right. Like I was just hiding behind my tattoos. And it got to a place where I had a client approach me. I had tattooed this girl, and she's like 20 years old, right? Like she's a kid. And I tattooed her, and she's like, what's up with your TikTok? I was like, I don't know. I just started it. I'm pretty big. I got 136 followers, like no big deal. And she's like, let me do some videos with you. Like, let me show you how to do this basically. And I was like, okay. And, she wanted an apprenticeship. And so like, I kind of vouched for her to get an apprenticeship, with Kareem.
And she helped you with your marketing campaign.
She helped me with that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And literally we did one video together, and the first video went into the millions of views. Like it went viral right away. And it was like this weird, like when I saw the video that she put together, I was like, oh, I don't like this. This is cringy, like it's gross. I don't like it.
Describe it. Give us a little high level.
So it was like, she did a video of me, and it was like little clips of like me goofing around while I was setting up. Some video of me actually tattooing. It had some subtext commentary on there, right? Like the texts that you put on the videos that you'll see. And it was really quick, like ADD quick. And it was weird. And I didn't like any of it. But I was like, fuck it, I'll try.
You can't argue with the results.
No, yeah, and I didn't know yet, right? So like when I saw the video, I was like, ew, this is stupid. This ain't gonna work. And we posted it, and literally like blew up right away. And as one video was blowing up, I posted another one, and it just like the followers were just pouring in. And I just I kept going, right? You get that momentum going with especially with TikTok. TikTok's a very momentous kind of social platform. Like once you get it, you have to stay on it.
I like I'm not on TikTok, but I see them on Instagram, which is another platform. Mm-hmm. And I see the videos regularly as a follower, and they're silly. You have silly, goofy, humorous, comedic routines that you do. Yeah. Some are slapstickish, right? Yeah. And you play different roles. You play the patient. You play the all kinds of different roles, and it's fun. Yeah. And you have a huge following because of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I have fun with it. It does become kind of tedious sometimes, at which point like I take mental health breaks all the time with TikTok. Like I will step back, and essentially that should kill my TikTok, but it always seems to come back, right? And as long as I'm like having fun with it, that's always going to be attractive, I think. But to me, dude, my videos are cringy. Like I don't like, I'm like, ew.
But the results unarguable.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some results right now. I did some research just recently for this podcast. You have 1.2 million TikTok followers today.
That's correct.
And so those people engage with you regularly. They send notes back and stuff.
Yeah, for the most part. So like each video is sort of its own monster, right? So even though I have 1.2 million followers, it doesn't guarantee me 1.2 million views, right? Like each video has to do well. It's like given its own algorithm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So 1.2 million followers is just like that many people liked me enough to hit that follow button, right? And like hopefully they can keep up. But if say they don't see one video or whatever, like the algorithm is weird, and it depends on engagement. So yeah, I mean I don't get like 1.2 million followers like talking to me all the time, but I do get quite a few.
And then on Instagram, last I checked, it's 32.3 thousand people are following you. That's right. And Instagram's a different platform with different engagement tools, different algorithms. So safe to say you're killing it on social media, right?
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
Humble too, I take it. And so you've been on tour recently. I mean, you're on a tattoo tour. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I've done so it's August now, and I've done 9 conventions this year so far. And I've traveled all over the world. I've gone, well, I wouldn't say all over the world, but I've hit Europe twice this year.
Did you ever think you would be hitting Europe as a tattoo artist?
I had hoped, but it was a long shot. It was kind of like playing drums for a band. Like, was I gonna go? Were we gonna get signed and go on tour? Like, it's a long shot, but that's the hope,
Right.
right?
And it was more than a hope because you had some vision. You had a goal and a vision of what it was like, what you wanted to make with this. And it evolves. And as you achieve, you get more. But Matt, you saw this. You saw this happening in your life. We're not even talking about family and things of that nature, but you created that in your life too.
Yep.
So you just took this momentum and ran with it. And now you've been to countries around in Europe. I've never been to Europe. So, I mean, you're doing things that people would love to do, right? You're going to all these different cities and people are standing in line. Tell us about Ireland. You went on to Ireland recently, and you posted on one of your posts that you stood firm on your price, and that folks in Ireland are having a hard time justifying cost of a tattoo, if you will. And so you stood firm on that. And how empowering is that to be able to turn business away and say, I stand firm here?
It's it's bittersweet. It's definitely, there's some empowerment there, but I kind of had to find that empowerment because I was, obviously spending thousands of dollars to come over to Ireland to tattoo, right? That's what I was there for. And then when I got there, I found that their prices are basically less than a quarter of what I'm charging over here in California. And in California, I'm on the lower end of like a good artist, right? Like, it's pretty standard what my prices are. So I was over in Ireland and I found out how much they were paying for tattoos, and I wasn't willing to even break out my equipment for that much money. It just didn't seem worth it to like lower myself to that. Mm-hmm. I had spent all these years building myself to where I'm at now, so I didn't really. I didn't see it to be worth it for me to lower myself to that, and I didn't, and yeah, like, it was like bittersweet for sure, because in my head I'm like, man, like, it would have been good to make some money over here, but at the same time, yeah, there's some empowerment.
You're an artist, and so there's value to what you do, and so you're not going to cross that line and do it for less than what's value, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is Tattoo Gate, right? So this is what we would call in the business world turning lemons into lemonade. Okay, so there was an event that happened that probably most folks don't know about, and that you were able to interject yourself as a good guy and reaping a reward out of it. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Tattoo Gate was a scandal in the tattoo industry that exploded on TikTok. TikTok seems to be like the new tabloid journal, if you will. It's like anything that it could be remotely scandalous explodes on TikTok, and you have all these people interjecting themselves into it, right? And I was essentially getting tagged in this story where this woman got screwed over for a good amount of money, almost $2,000, for a sketch that was, could have been done by my 8-year-old. Like, he probably could have done the same sketch. And when I was getting tagged in this, I looked into the story, and I learned enough to know that, like, this woman got screwed over, and she seemed very genuine in her video. She wasn't trying to get anything. She wasn't trying to slander the artist, and she wouldn't even mention the artist that did it. She was just like an artist, right? And I reached out and just was like, hey, I'm on behalf of the tattoo industry, I'm really sorry. Like, this is not what we do. This is not what we stand for. And like, I just want you to know, like, we're with you here, and if I can help out at all, or if you want to talk, like, let me know. And she was thankful, but that was about it.
Good guy, Matt, and good publicity.
There's the public. There's the publicity angle on this, right? But like, that was so far in the back of my mind. It had nothing to do with that. It was at least not my personal publicity, right? For me, it was like, wow, the industry that I love so much is getting bashed publicly. And I wanted to reach out on behalf of the industry and just let her know that, like, there's a huge good side to the tattoo industry. I know so many artists that are just like amazing people, would give you the shirt off their back, right? Just awesome people. And there's this one, artist in quote unquote
Giving us all
artist.
a bad name.
Yeah. So we reached out literally just to be, have that human connection and just be like, hey, like, I'm sorry. Right. And then I was talking to my manager because it was continuing to explode, obviously, with the cancel culture and everything. Everybody that was involved with the girl that did that was getting canceled. And it was just a bad deal. And I spoke with my manager, who was like a PR rep kind of deal, right? And I told her, she's like, "What do you think about this?" I'm like, "It's terrible. I think it's really bad for the industry, and I love this industry, dude. I wish I could do something." She's like, "Well, that's my job. What if I talk to your sponsors and see if we can fly her down from Canada? Would you tattoo her if I could?" And I was like, "Absolutely, 100%." And so, yeah, my manager Jen Lee she put it all together. She spoke with my sponsors at H2 Ocean. They paid for her flight to come down to California. Booking.com also got involved and paid for her husband's flight and their stay in Orange County.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big deal. And like the news was talking about coming down and covering the story while I tattooed her. They didn't end up doing it, but they did approach us about it. It wasn't Fox News, believe it or not. It was a fox tattoo.
The tattoo that you did for her was a fox?
Yeah. So it was, Tattoo Gate was also known as like Fox Gate, right? It was two terms that it could be searched under. But yeah, and so I brought her down with the help of my sponsors and my manager, and we gave her the tattoo. She was so happy about the tattoo. I did the tattoo 100% like free. It was no charge to her. And then she got to go to Disneyland, which was like one of her dreams too, being from Canada. She had never been down here before, so she really wanted to go to Disneyland and was able to make that whole trip like a dream come true.
What an amazing story. Lemons to lemonade, and you're helping individuals along the way. That's fantastic. One of the things you talked about in that story there is your sponsors. So I'm looking at you right now. You're wearing some Solon gear,
Yep.
right? So Solon's a sponsor of yours.
Solon is they're a brand that I work with a lot. They're not technically a sponsor. They don't.
But you're wearing all their merch.
But yeah, I haven't paid for clothes in a long time.
That's a sponsor in my book.
Yeah, they technically. They're not technically called a sponsor, but we work together a lot. I model a lot of their clothes, believe it or not. And I'm really good friends with Jeremy, the owner, the co-owner of that, and a lot of the people that work there. It's just, they're like extended family at this point.
And you have sponsors for the things that you use, the gear that you use in the tattooing industry?
I do, yes. And I'm sponsored by JC Only, which makes needles for us to tattoo with, the needle cartridges. So they supply me with all of those. H2 Ocean, who was very much involved in Tattoo Gate, they flew, Courtney down. They give me all their products, like they have glides, all the aftercare stuff, like I'm covered there. And then Painful Pleasures, which is a tattoo supply company who, basically covers the rest of the stuff.
So you have a high margin business, we would say.
Yeah.
You've gotten a lot of your costs taken care of right up front.
Yep.
And that makes it much more profitable for you to do tattoos.
Yeah, and it helps me to just kind of focus on like pushing my artwork and pushing my brand, which is like essentially like a goofy dude who's like got a decent heart. I hope that's what comes across, because like I'm just trying to be authentically me.
Yeah, it does. It's silly, but they're comedic and they're super fun. And at the end of the day, you're showing your art. Right? Yep. You're showing your art and people get a chance to take a look at it. And for a guy who doesn't have any body art, I'm blown away at the level of detail. And I'm showing people constantly your art because I can't even fathom the texture, the depth. One in particular keeps coming to mind all the time. You had a skeleton hand holding a cocktail. And you have the cuffs on the shirt. I can see the stitching inside the material. It's amazing to me. I don't know how you do it.
I appreciate that. And I could show you some artists that make me look horrible too. Like the way that the tattoo industry has expanded in the last 10 years is amazing, right? Like I'm middle of the road. So
I think you're being humble, but
no. But yeah, there's amazing things we can do with tattoos these days, and like with the more money goes into it, the more research, and the better the technology gets with the ink, the way we put it in, the machines we use, like all that kind of stuff is just going to keep.
And more people are doing it. So there's a growing and growing market. So what a great story to be heading in this direction. So what's next? What's next for Matt?
Most recently there's been, right after Tattoogate, like I went through some stuff on social media that's happening right now. Like the crowd, the mob kind of turned on me a little bit, which is, to me, if
you don't have haters, you ain't trying hard enough.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And it stings a little bit sometimes, but at the end of the day, like that doesn't matter to me. Like it's just social media, right? Social media to me is a tool. A lot of people make it like their life, and I'm not with that. That's an empty life. And my life is full. Like social media is just a tool. So for me, I think at the moment right now, at least, focusing much less on social media and creating videos.
So social media is a tool, right? It's what an engagement tool for you to engage with followers, right? But it's not, you don't measure your success on the number of followers or the number of likes or the number of people that are in your camp.
Not at all. No. And like, I told myself early on, once I hit 1 million followers, like I went through this whole like ego thing, and I had to kind of let the ego die a bit, right? Because there was a lot of hate from the get-go with TikTok. Like people are thumb thugging and, like doing their little keyboard warrior stuff. And I had to deal with that right away. And so like for me, I came to the mental conclusion that like I have to be good if TikTok dies today. Right? Like if TikTok
good at your craft, you mean.
Right. Yeah. Well, and not just that, but like mentally and spiritually good. Like I can't put any weight into that, because if that disappears today, like I have to be cool. Like I have to be good.
Your value comes from within,
yeah,
right? Not from external resources.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Right. So like 1.2 million followers on TikTok, that's like a cool little side note. But to me, like it really doesn't mean shit. Like I don't care that much about it. Like I appreciate the support from all those people, like 100%. Like I wouldn't be here without those people, but that's as far as it goes with me. I cannot identify with 1.2 million followers on TikTok, right? It's just, that's an empty identification. Like I'm good with that. So, for me, I really like I said, I'm middle of the road tattooing right now. Like I see some people that are just blowing me out of the water. And I want to come for them, right? Like, so my whole goal right now is to learn as much as I can, paint, draw, like just keep creating and keep getting better, because I want to be front of the pack. I want to be putting out artwork like the people that I see.
So you consider yourself an artist first, right? 100%. Tattoo is the medium in which you display the art.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a living, breathing art form, right? Like I can paint on canvas, but I have so much more fun tattooing on a living human being and letting them walk around with that artwork, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a way to look at it.
And it's so personal because like I'm doing this art that's essentially going to die at some point, right? Like, and I've had a lot of clients, not a lot, but I've had a handful of clients that I know of that have passed away already. So I've put artwork on people, and that artwork's not walking around anymore, right? So there's a slight there's just a power in that for some reason. Like it's so personal, the artwork that I put on you, like you get to take that with you when you die. You know what I mean? That's not going to be on the earth anymore. So I don't know. It's a weird thought that I have. And it's just a super personal connection with the people that I'm putting tattoos on. And it's like, I can paint, but like having that extra, that extra connection, that extra power with that tattoo that I do, I love it. I love tattooing as an art form.
You found your passion, man.
Yeah.
You've told such an amazing story here. You had a vision. You decided to follow your dream, to look the common conventional route in the face and stare it down and decide to follow your dreams. You had some God shots that reinforced that dream. You were clear on your goals and vision, which we danced around here a little bit about, but you definitely had some goals of what you wanted to accomplish here. You knocked them out of the park. You found new ways to get after those goals that you couldn't even think of at the time.
Yeah.
That brought you there. It's taking you around the world. It's taking you to high levels of, social media and notoriety and all that kind of fun stuff. You've built a family along the way, right?
Yeah.
You've changed your life completely. I'm so flippin' proud of you, Matt. I can't even begin to describe to folks what an amazing story this is. And I'm so grateful you got a chance to tell it on the boardroom sessions.
Man, yeah, I really appreciate you giving the opportunity and everything that you do, man. Like, I still look up to you so much, and I really appreciate you.
It's not about me, man. It's about setting those goals and getting after them and having the vision first, and then utilizing resources and God, if you will, to allow you to get after it. And you did, man. I'm super excited. I can't wait to share with folks in the show notes here, your Instagram, your TikTok, and so they can see some of your art, because it's absolutely amazing. Do you see yourself doing like paintings and sketch work and maybe a studio or things of that nature? What's the ultimate goal here? Where do you see yourself as a accomplished individual?
So yeah, I mean, I want to own my own studio at some point. I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure on that as far as like getting it done right now. Like I said, I just want to keep progressing my art. So yeah, painting, drawing. I do a lot of digital designs that I create to, essentially make a design for a tattoo. So I do that a lot. I just want to keep doing art.
Keep growing.
Yeah, keep growing.
Keep growing and doing what you do.
Yeah, and I do see myself obviously owning a shop down the road. So that's on the vision board.
There it is. It's out there, people.
Yeah.
Here it goes.
I gotta plan a wedding, dude. I got a lot to do. But yeah, I keep that vision, man, and the why or the how, or knowing the why and the how will reveal itself. Like I'm good with it. Like I'm like good with where I'm at. I know I'm on the right path.
I know you're on the right path. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you so much, and congratulations on what you've built so far, and I can't wait to watch the rest.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, Mike here. Hope you liked this boardroom session. Please check back to our future sessions, as we're recording a new one every month. If you want to reach out, look for me on LinkedIn, or send me a note at mike@sidepath.com. That's Mike at sidepath.com.